Attack 18 right here. I got a special guest today, my teammate and team leader, Mr. Roy St. Clair.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Getting ready for Nats this year. So, Roy, you're going to be at Nats this year, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I'll be at the Nats, guys.
All
We're
right.
leaving out on Thursday.
Leaving out on Thursday. So, any of you up there a little bit early, come find us. But today we're going to talk about some side deck choices on the main decks you'll be seeing at Nats. So, Roy, we got, I'd say a couple videos we're going to film here, a couple different side deck choices.
It's a couple of short ones.
Alright, so let's go from the bottom up. Burst on the scene back in, way back a couple years ago is GK. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that deck first because it's come up recently. What's your thoughts on the GK deck as it stands right now? What side deck choices can we look to put in there?
I mean, I think GK. I mean, it's very relevant. It's going to be a good deck because it beats dragons. It beats windups. It beats a lot of the meta. The only deck that it really does. It beats Dark Worlds. I mean, it beats the only deck that it really doesn't auto have a turn one advantage that if it opens with a Necro Valley is probably Rabbit. And you'll see Rabbit, but I mean it's not really a problem because I mean they can't negate flip summons. It's not too hard that the fact that they have so much advantage that you can just summon and just make them waste a Lagia play on that. Like Lagia is a lot less scary than people think. You just make them waste it and then go from there and get your advantage back. You have Stellas and whatnot. So I think GK is going to see some great play. It's now officially the best anti-meta deck, not Heroes. But yeah, it'll see a lot of play. Not a lot of play, but it'll see some tops.
Okay, and what cards can you tell us will give us any advantage going into games 2 and 3 against the Gravekeeper deck?
If you're playing against yeah, sorry, I know that's the point of this whole thing. I think Shadow Imprison Mirror is one of the only choices that you're going to be able to fit in your side because it also works against decks like Dark World and Zekros and other decks, and I'll get around to that. But I mean, it's Shadow Mirror is probably going to be your best bet against them rather than some off-the-wall choice that only targets that deck.
What about a card like Macrocosmos, which kind of gets the Commandant and the Recruiter out of the way?
That's good. I mean, but the thing about Macro hurts GKs a little bit, but they can just summon big beats and push through, and then you have that dead card. So I mean, I've had that matchup before, but yeah, you can side that into if you want to. Like if it doesn't have any negative effect on your deck, and if you just see yourself having dead cards in general against that matchup, why not put in extra cards if you already put in like Shadow Mirrors?
Alright, understandable. Alright, let's talk to another deck. Deck that most recently did well at the 100th YCS. We're going to talk about Dark Worlds. They haven't seen much play since then. A lot of people started running them at the locals, but they haven't done well in any major tournaments. Not remembering if any actually topped Philadelphia last month. What are your thoughts on the Dark World decks, and what can we side against it?
I think Dark World's cheap. I mean, that's what everyone's looking for, but a lot of decks are cheap nowadays. I mean, you just add some tour guides to a deck and you have a deck. Dark World's good, it gets a lot of advantage. There's still, that percentage of people out there that don't really know how to play against it. Like I said, it's a top tier deck. Good cards to play against it, like side deck choices. Macro beats it, D-Fisher beats it, Crow beats it, Shadow Mirror, like we said again, that's a good card to beat it. Gemini Imp is a good card against it. But that's more if you really see a lot of it. Like, I don't know, I would try to not run like really specific cards with specific decks that are like not completely high tier. Like, I mean, we'll get around to that earlier with like Rabbit and Dragon and like stuff like that, where you can definitely run cards just for that. But yeah, like like I said, Macro Fissure, Crow, Shadow Mirror, and Imp. Those are good choices.
Okay, early on in the tournament, especially at Nats, you're going to expect to see a couple rogue decks. A lot of them have been getting a lot of steam lately with cards like Card-D coming out and people just getting there because people aren't expecting it. Chainburn. It's been around, 1 or 2 tops every event. What do you expect to see at Nats, especially with the possible top 128 cut?
I mean, it'll be there, obviously. Top 128, you probably get about maybe 3 or 4 of them will be in there. Good side deck choices against it right now are just going to be like Decree, Trap Stun, which is a good choice in general. You just resolve it after they do everything, and end phase, just play smart against that deck. End phase your MSTs, don't waste your cards, and that's pretty much your best option against Chamberlain.
All right, and the last one for this.
One other thing about Chamberlain is if you can fit it, if you're running certain decks like GK and other decks, if you can fit it, you can, and because of Veil on 4 stars. Squeeze an Android into your extra deck. Sometimes it'll actually just help you get there, and that extra 600 during end phase if they're trying to just burn you out slowly, because sometimes they don't get the big, huge chain. Android's not a bad choice.
Alright, there's one more card I'm thinking of with that, now that you brought it up. You did tell me this one before. Des Wombat. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I meant to say that too. Death Walnut's good too, but make sure if you play Death Walnut, just don't summon 2 cards because they can gobble you. So yeah, Death Walnut, 5 pokes, you win.
Alright, last one for this video is one that's picked up a lot of steam after Philadelphia. We did see it go undefeated through Swiss rounds. It did have the 1 tie, and we've seen it top a couple nats in other countries, albeit 100-person, 200-person nats. What about Final Countdown?
Countdown's okay. I mean, it's good for locals. It's good for maybe regionals if you want to get there. I don't think it's gonna do too much nationals, but maybe 1 or 2 actually get in the top 128. A lot of people don't know how to play correctly against it, and the fact that the rulings say that a lot of the cards stack, like Frozen Soul and whatnot. I think Thunder Ruler, yeah, gives the deck a big plus, and it's good against decks that aren't ready for it. But I mean, people who are siding like decrees and whatnot, like dragons and sectors, just expect them to already have the decrees, and they're already going to have MSTs. I don't think it's a good choice to run it because I don't know, there's too much hate, and I figure if you're at nationals and you're trying to go out to worlds competition, you shouldn't run a deck that you just try to hope to get there. Good choices to side against them are like Trapzone, Night Beam. This card actually Matt pointed out, it's a good card against them. And like I said, Decree, and then if you're not maining MSTs, obviously End-Phase MSTs, Dust Tornadoes are a great choice again. If you already main MSTs, it's a good deck card against a lot of decks. Like against Darkhold too, you get rid of their field spell, and Dust Tornado's always been a secondary option, MST and a good side card.
Alright, well, YouTube, that's our first 4 decks we're going to talk about. We're going to go ahead and take a little break. Go ahead, get yourself a drink, get yourself some food, and get set for the next couple videos.